Hi, I'm Rachel Davison. Welcome to my house. Today I'm going to show you how to make pumpkin biscuits. Now these biscuits are the perfect thing beside a bowl of soup, beside a bowl of stew, or beside your Thanksgiving meal. If you want to replace your store-bought rolls with something homemade but not difficult to make, this is the perfect thing. So let's get at it. So first I'm just going to show you how to quickly cook a sugar pumpkin. This is a sugar pumpkin. It's just a small round pumpkin. If you don't know the difference, you can just ask a farmer or someone working down in our produce tent. But the way you cook it is I just knock the stem off, I cut the pumpkin in half and scoop out the seeds, and then I just place it face down on a cookie sheet. You can see I have some cooked here. And I've baked this at 375 for 45 minutes is what it took. But you can see I poked it with a fork to see when it's nice and soft and there's no resistance, it's done. Now you can see here I've got two pretty different pumpkins, and I'm going to show you how to get the pumpkin out from here. So some pumpkins like this one, the easiest thing to do is just to peel it off. It's a really juicy pumpkin. The skin just comes off so easily like that, and you're left with just the flesh on the inside. From there, I'm just going to throw it into a bowl or a measuring cup and blend it with my immersion blender. Or of course you could just throw it into a big blender and blend it up. But you do want your pumpkin pureed when you're using it for recipes. You don't want it stringy. So this is just a slightly different variety of sugar pumpkin. Let's try to peel it, but if it doesn't work, which I don't think it will, no, I could pick away at it, but that's going to be difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip it, and I'm just going to scoop out the flesh with a spoon. And that's a lot easier for this. So if you're trying to peel it and it's not working, flip it over and just scoop it out. Or if you're trying to scoop it out and it's just falling apart, you can just peel it, and that's going to be a lot easier. It's really not that difficult, and pumpkin freezes very, very well. So if you want to use a bit for a recipe and you're left with a whole bunch left over, just freeze it in Ziplocs according to the size of the recipe that you like to use the most. So let's puree this pumpkin here. Okay, and once you're satisfied that it's nice and smooth, you're ready to use it. So let's move on to our biscuits. So to make our biscuits, the first thing we're going to do is mix our dry ingredients. So I've got all-purpose flour here. We're going to do 1 3/4 cups. If you'd rather, you can mix a little bit of whole wheat in there. But it's Thanksgiving, so let's keep it fancy. And then I am going to add 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, just to give it a little bit of sweetness. We're going to put in 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. 1, 2.5, and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. We want 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Good, and then we're just going to mix that up really well. All right, once you're satisfied that it's well mixed in, you especially want to be careful for that brown sugar. The next thing we're going to do is cut in our butter. So I've got 1/2 cup of butter. You can use butter or margarine. And I just like to slice it up before I dump it in. It just makes it slightly easier to cut in. And then you can cut it in using a pastry cutter or a fork or your hands, whatever method you prefer. I like to use my hands. So let's just get in there and break the butter up into crumbs. You just want to keep doing this till they're even sized pieces. So the next thing we're going to do is add our wet ingredients. The only 2 wet ingredients in these biscuits is pumpkin puree and buttermilk. So I have 1/3 cup of buttermilk and 3/4 cup of pumpkin, and I'm going to just dump them together here and just gently mix them up before I add it to my dry ingredients. I'm going to add it to my dry ingredients and give it a stir. Let's just kind of make a little hole in the middle to dump it in. What I want to do is kind of form a ball here. When you're using homemade pumpkin, the consistency isn't always the same. Some are juicier than others. So you might have to adjust your flour just a little bit based on your pumpkin, but it's not going to be extreme. So once I've got it kind of mixed in, I'm actually going to dump it onto my mat here. You can just dump it on the counter too is fine. A little bit of flour, and we're going to just mix it until it's a nice ball. You don't want to over mix your biscuits. The less you mix them, or the less you knead them, the fluffier they're going to be. So I can see this is just a little bit wetter than it sometimes is, so I'm going to add a little bit of flour and just start kneading it into a ball till it's a workable consistency. There, you can see it's kind of taking shape rather than just being really sticky. Okay. Let me just get my hands a rinse here and I'll show you what to do next. So from here you can use a rolling pin or you can just pat it down with your hands. And because this dough is so soft, I prefer just to pat it down with my hands. Let's make sure there's some flour underneath. You don't want it to be stuck to the counter when you're done. Gently press it down till it's about just a bit less than ½ an inch thick. That looks perfect. And then we're going to cut it into biscuit form. You can use the cutting method of your choice, but a cookie cutter works well, or you can even just cut it into squares if you want. But I am just going to push down with this cup and make cute little circles. Good. So I've got my oven preheated to 450 degrees. So we're going to throw these in our hot oven and we're going to let them bake. I'm going to start for about 12 minutes and check them after that. Takes about 12 to 15 minutes. 12 minutes has gone by. Let's check on our biscuits. So it looks like they're brown on top. Let's put that down before I burn myself. Let's just check the bottom, make sure that they're brown. Yes, they are. So these biscuits are done. So there you go. You've got yourself a delicious side for Thanksgiving dinner, or the perfect thing to dip in a bowl of soup. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more videos.